Okay, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the November 15th, 2018 meeting of the City of Bellingham Planning Commission. Everyone in the audience, if you could silence any electronic devices, cell phones. If you're on a laptop taking notes, just please make sure it's on silent. I'm going to do the same. Heather, will you please call the roll?
Phyllis McKee.
Here.
Garrett O'Brien.
Here.
Ollie Taishi.
Here.
Lisa Anderson.
Here.
Steve Crooks.
Here.
Iris Motti Gibson and Mike Estes have been excused.
Thank you. Okay, so we have, before we get into our public hearing, which is on proposed amendments to Title 13, we are going to go through some housekeeping. We have no minutes to approve, but we will have a public comment period. And so this is an opportunity for anybody in the audience to comment. If you are here to comment on tonight's topic, which is Title 13 updates, then this is not the time to comment. We'll give you another opportunity to do that when we start the public hearing. But this is what we call an open public comment period, so you can talk about anything else. So if anyone would like to spend 3 minutes talking about anything other than tonight's topic, now's your chance to come up to the mic. Is there anybody who'd like to make a comment? Okay, seeing no one, we will close the public comment period. Okay, so tonight's hearing, there's a couple people signed up, which is good. Tonight's hearing is on proposed amendments to Title 13. It's street standards for the City of Bellingham Code, and we're going to have a brief staff presentation, and then we'll take public testimony if there is any, and then we'll have a discussion amongst the body. So Kathy, you can take us away?
Yep,
Thanks.
thank you very much. So earlier this year, planning staff brought forward a proposed ordinance for the land division regulations, and included in that were what the section that you see above, which is in part of the lot design standards section of the draft code. And what the intent here in this particular section, and I have it highlighted, is there is a reference to Title 13, and Title 13 is our streets and sidewalks section of the municipal code. And the idea was to outsource to other codes as to what the requirement should be, because right now they're located in many different places, and as we update codes, it's a goal that we're trying to achieve. We realized that the update to Title 13, which these provisions were going to be included in, was not at the same rate or the same pace that the land division ordinance was moving forward through the public process. So we found that what we are presenting this evening to you is removing all of those existing regulations in Title 18, which is the existing subdivision ordinance, which is attached to your staff report, is to put them into the streets and sidewalks section into 1308, and that is attached and shown in the ordinance, which is on page 6 and 7 of the staff report. And you will see that we are proposing minor amendments to two sections, and one is 1308. 010 and the other is 1308-030, and we believe that those are necessary in order to support our proposed changes, because some of that information lives in Title 18, and the goal is to no longer have that there. And then Brent Baldwin can answer or speak to the specific regulations as we're proposing them.
Okay, thank you. That's it for presentation. Okay, so before we have a discussion at a public hearing, we take public comment if there is any on the topic. It's a pretty limited scope topic, but if anybody in the audience would like to share thoughts on the Title 13 update, then you have the same opportunity to come to the mic and you get 3 minutes to talk to us about it. Is there anybody who'd like to comment on this? Okay, seeing no one, we will close the public comment portion of the public hearing. And with that, we're going to move right into discussion. Is there anybody who has questions for staff or any comments? Sorry, Lisa? Yeah, it is, and I'm sure that when we wrap up, if you have like questions about that kind of general scoping, someone from planning department could probably give you like a brief rundown, unless you want to give us like a brief explanation, right?
Sure.
how it functions in relation to the subdivision ordinance, say?
Yeah, you
Okay.
bet. So Title 13 is what we call our, I'm Brent Baldwin, Development Manager for the Public Works Department. So Title 13 covers all of our street standards for the city of Bellingham. So in reference to the subdivision code, why we are moving everything into Title 13 is to provide direction on specific development proposals and when things trigger different infrastructure improvements. So everything from a building permit up through any type of subdivision, which is what we've been working with Title 18, 15, 23. Thank you. So that's this new section going into 13 will give guidance to that so that we know what each individual project will need to do as they come in.
Thanks. Okay, Lisa, sorry.
No worries. This, maybe in the future, this will be a little bit more evident, but I was kind of curious when we look at page 6, when we're looking at A, where new construction or maintenance or renovation of 50% or more of an existing structure shall, and so forth. So if in some of our older neighborhoods, we have areas that don't have sidewalks, they don't have curbs. It's basically asphalt street to landscaping or brush. And so if someone had a large lot and wanted to divide it and build a house, or if a house burned down and it was more than a 50% renovation, would this impact them having to put in basically an island of a sidewalk when there's no contiguous sidewalk for it to join to?
So a couple questions there. So the 50% rule is typically taken from the building rules, and that kicks you into bringing up a structure to modern rules. So, you know, everything from the building code to everything else. This actually would not require an island of sidewalk to be installed, and that was something we took a look at buildable area scenarios that Chris Behe from our planning department provided us to determine what land was available still for short platting and then individual single-family housing. That's why we didn't at this time put in the requirement to install sidewalks for those small items. And that was to avoid just what you described, having remnant islands throughout the existing neighborhoods that you know, we really wouldn't have any quick way of completing those. We kind of looked at that as if the city was to go back in and retrofit neighborhoods with sidewalks, you now run into stormwater requirements, you run into a whole gamut of construction activities, which makes it easier to be done in one project rather than piecemeal like that. So that's why we didn't put that in there.
So continuing by omission, does that mean, is it written somewhere or somebody would be able to, let's say a property owner wanted to divide their lot in half, build another house. Would they just talk to planning to find out that they wouldn't have to put that in, or is it written in some part of the code that would be referenceable?
It's actually in this provision. So what 1308.030, which is the section 2 of the draft ordinance, it'll now have 2 sections. Currently it has 1, and that's only dealing with building permits because all street construction requirements associated with land division now is in the subdivision ordinance. So we are, at this time, there are no proposed changes to the building permit component of it. This is only to incorporate street construction requirements that are associated with land division. So if it is such that there is a 5-lot short plat, what these provisions say is that if you have 5 or more, then yes, you are subject to 3/4 standard, which would require the construction of a sidewalk. If you are 4 lots or less, it is minimum standard, which just for general purposes does not include a sidewalk, which is what it is today.
In reading the 4 or less, when it said minimum, I guess I probably should have asked for a definition of what the minimum would have been. So thank you for clarifying that. That was a concern because there are some areas that have multiple blocks of no sidewalks. So I want to make sure that especially with a rebuild situation, they're not impacted because it would be cost prohibitive.
Thanks. Somebody else? Garrett?
Thank you. On page 7, item 3, so on the land divisions that are larger than 4 units, so 5 or more, and the 3/4 improvement to the nearest arterial street, so it's not just in front of the subject property, it's, how far does that extend if you're mid-block? Is that all the way down? Am I reading that right?
No, actually, what it says is across 3/4 street standard across the full frontage, and then minimum standard to the next arterial street.
I see.
So that way, if you have, you know, a non-constructed right-of-way, if you did a 5-lot short plat, you would do your frontage improvements, so curb gutter sidewalk, 3/4 street to the edge of your project, and then from there to the next arterial, you'd expand to minimum standard, which is 20 feet. So that's, minimum standard is defined in another section of the code.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? This is a like a very specific amendment that addresses consistency with what we just recommended approval on not that long ago, that you're showing there. In the broader Title 13 ordinance that you guys are going to bring back, are you going to look at, this isn't really related to this, it's more just curiosity. Are you going to look at what the actual street standards are? Like what a minimum standard is, what a 3/4 standard is? And
Yes.
are we going to be reviewing changes to that?
Yeah, that's the intent. So our plan is to come back hopefully this spring and have a variety of changes to Title 13. Title 13 hasn't been updated in 30 years. So there's a number of areas within the title that aren't specific to subdivisions, but other things that are very far out of date. So we're be coming back with multiple different changes with the chapter, and we'll walk you through exactly why we're proposing that and what the intent of that is.
Okay, and then I think I understand this. I just want to say it to make sure. But these don't change the standard for internal roads. So like if we recommend changes to the subdivision ordinance to allow lots to not have pipe stems and share an easement, or if you're doing an infill toolkit project, the infill toolkit has like a different standard for the lane that goes with it. These would only apply to the frontage, right?
Yes.
Is that, am I interpreting that correctly?
Only
Yeah.
public right-of-way.
So it wouldn't affect all the changes we just made in terms of what this, like, because you guys put pretty specific shared easement, standards into the ordinance that we recommended.
Correct, but that's talking about street abutment.
Yeah, so this is only about street abutment.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I thought so, I just wanted to make sure. I don't have any other questions. Does anybody have a motion?
I move to adopt the revisions to BMC 13 as proposed on our November 15th draft.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. The motion was to recommend adoption of the BMC Title 13 amendments as reflected in the November 15th staff report. Is there any discussion on that? Anyone? Okay. I'm not going to restate it again since I just did. We'll move to a vote. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that motion moves 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, guys. That's a good little fix. That was easy because it was pretty straightforward. So can you tell us how this is going to proceed now to council?
Yes.
Because council's actively reviewing the broader recommendation we made, right?
Right, so we've had work sessions before council, and they are aware that this revision is coming. We actually discussed it with them before we proceeded, and it will go to hearing Monday night, and hopes that it will catch up ever so quickly with the land division ordinance, which depending on the work session on Monday, they'll either move to vote to council, or they'll ask for another work session, which will be 1st of December. So the timing is still unknown, but this process really helps us move it along should they take an action on Title 23.
Thank you. Okay, so that'll close our public hearing. We got a little early present this year because you guys canceled all the rest of our meetings, so it looks like we have nothing left until January.
Oh, we should
Yeah.
find something.
I'm sure you'd love to bang out an ordinance in the next couple weeks over the holidays for us to review. But yeah, so it looks like we have no more meetings, everybody. So I know we'd set aside some time. We will be having meetings in January. I think, Heather, you'd sent out an email with a date in January that we needed to hold. Is that right?
Have a meeting, I believe, on, is it the 3rd? Is that the first Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got the 3rd.
That's your
Listed.
first public hearing of the year.
I was told, Kurt, by the planning director and Greg, that we thought we were going to have a really busy fall, and just circumstances worked out where some of these things got bumped forward, and so now we should expect a really busy first quarter of 2019. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's correct. We just, with a workload and some other things that were coming up, we wanted to make sure that we were able to provide good reports for you, good information, and make sure that we really detailed things out. And so we pushed things a little bit into the new year instead.
Yeah. So I was told, just for the planning commission's benefit, that we'll be having some of the docketed items circle back to us, like the waterfront and Sandwich Way Urban Village.
Correct.
And we already, had our one meeting on the manufactured homes, but that might come back around. And the continued review of the permanent homeless, I always get the term wrong, permanent encampments.
Correct. We've also got a couple minor code provisions on our CUPs with our conditional use permits that we'll be bringing forward as well.
Yeah, plus Title 13 maybe before the summer, so there'll be a bunch of stuff to do. So,
Wait, could we get some clarification? The 3rd is the first Thursday, but I have on my calendar that it was pushed to the 10th, the second Thursday.
Heather, do you know anything about that?
As far as I know, it's the 3rd.
Oh,
I don't know whether
okay.
we pushed it to the
I
10th.
don't know where I got that then.
We should hold that date, in the event there's a meeting. I think we're gonna have a lot of meetings.
Where are we at on the homeless shelter, permanent homeless shelter ordinance?
That's we're working through it right now. We are actually, we're continuing to work through that.
How about the interim ordinance? I mean, we recommended adoption of that and went to council. Has it been reviewed by council?
Yes, it's actually already in place. It's
Excellent.
it's in place now. We should actually have our first application under that coming forward very, very soon. So.
That's excellent.
Yeah. Great. Well, we don't have any more meetings for a while, so thanks. Oh, Steve, my bad, sorry. You know what? I know what you're gonna say. We had a shoreline committee meeting tonight, and we should get an update, shouldn't we?
Shoreline
I'm
met
sorry.
tonight. Couldn't let something go by that
No.
significant. Shoreline met tonight, and we granted a variance for 2 buildings down on Roeder that are being proposed. A parking lot would encroach into the shoreline jurisdiction area. And the subcommittee approved that, and it's moving forward to the director. On another note, if I may, a couple weeks ago, there was a meeting by the Housing Authority, and they presented a number of awards out to various city committees and commissions. And it happens that our chairman, Mr. Ali Taisi, was given an award for the work that he has been doing and the Planning Commission has been doing in respect to the housing, all the housing ordinances that have come before us during the last year. And I want to make sure that the public record is reflecting the fact that that award was given to this commission. Thank you.
Yeah, and I accepted that on behalf of everybody because, you know, we function collectively. And Steve and Mike were there, and it was really nice to have the commission be appreciated by some community groups. So that was pretty cool. Thank you, Steve. So with that, we're going to see everybody next year. Thanks to staff. I know just your small sampling of the many staff members who've come and presented to us this year, but it was a really busy year. And thank you to planning commissioners, because we won't see it until January. And this was a really busy year with a lot of very difficult topics. And I really feel like everybody did an excellent job of contributing. And, you know, we got through all these things in a very civil manner. They were tough issues, and I just appreciate that very much. So it's been a great year. So everybody have a great Thanksgiving and a good holiday. Thanks. We will adjourn. Yep.
You are January 10th and 24th.
There you go. Phyllis is right.
Keep track of the calendar.
There you go. Thank you, Heather. Yeah, we'll adjourn. Thank you.